Hello wonderful humans, and welcome back to the final video on the Shadow Rising. What a ride it has been. It's just been incredible, the whole book from maybe I can't exactly say the whole book from start to finish. It was amazing, but I did have that period of time where I was having trouble reading the book because of other things, because of my personal life. So maybe the first couple of chapters took me a lot longer to read than the rest of the book. But once I got into it and once it got going, what a ride it was. So anyway, welcome to this final video. Today I'm going to be talking about the final 7 chapters of the book, chapters 52 through to 58. And as always, I read a chapter of the book and immediately I sit down and write a page of notes in my notebook. 1 page, no more. Sometimes a little bit less than that, but not often. And that's really what you're getting in this video, is just exactly what my reaction is in the moment, without much thought. So yes, I get things wrong. I read words wrong occasionally, and that's just the joy of what you're getting, my experience and my commentary of my experience of reading The Wheel of Time. So I'm going to get started today with chapter 52, Need. And another great chapter with things just coming together. The last chapter before this was a lot of revelations happening in Tanchico. Revelations in Tanchico was the chapter title. So lots of things happening in that chapter, but this is the chapter where things start coming to life in Tanchico. It was good to be back with Nynaeve for a bit. I do find it really interesting, not necessarily in a bad way, just really interesting, that Robert Jordan often avoids her point of view, often drifting, if it's a Gwen, and Nynaeve, he will go to a Gwen, and if it's Elaine and Nynaeve, he goes to Elaine. Often avoids Nynaeve for whatever reason. I think it makes sense in a way, given how narrow-minded and fixated she can become, but it's still just, it's an interesting choice, and I wonder if it was deliberate. I think Nynaeve's an interesting one to get into her head, but we wouldn't pick up on as much as we do looking at things through Elaine's eyes, for example, in a lot of this Tanchico stuff. Vegeta is another one I find incredibly fascinating. Just so awesome to sort of see her coming to life. She's given so much useful information that might just help them make it through this successfully. She may be the tipping point that helps them survive this. Although I feel one of the storylines, maybe Rand's, may not succeed as planned. I feel that something's not going to go quite the way that it's been planned out. Actually, all of them. All of them won't go according to the initial plan. That's just a given. But Rand's in particular, I wonder whether that will go according to plan. Will Vegeta be able to continue helping, given she's not supposed to be? Will any of the other Horn Army help as well? Or will there be repercussions that we don't know about yet? This is really intriguing, and we're starting to get into this Horn Army a little bit more, since we only really got introduced to them briefly in The Great Hunt and haven't revisited so much. So looking forward to seeing what that whole deal is, I suppose, how that helps, how maybe their help is going to cause more problems like in the dream world. Anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes. At least through this, there's been confirmation of 2 Forsaken currently of concern, not counting Lanfear. I'm not counting Lanfear in this, she's just always of concern. Is Lanfear teaming up with Osmodian, or maybe one of the others? And still waiting on confirmation who Slayer is. That, I have absolutely no idea who Slayer could be at this stage. Also, will Nynaeve remember that Vegeta mentioned Perrin, and the wolf boy, or wolfman, or whatever she called him? Or did she not notice because she hasn't worked out his wolf thing yet? And got me thinking that Nynaeve doesn't know as much about it. If it had been a Gwen talking to Vegeta, she might have been able to put more of it together, which I think that's a really interesting, or not interesting, it's really delightful. I'm finding that it's just great how these things, how people are getting the information, the characters are getting information that if they put it all together, it would make a lot more sense. And I think that will, I'm assuming, be a big part of what happens in later books, is putting things together and hopefully a little bit more sharing. So it looks like Amathera is a prisoner by the look of this, most likely anyway. I can't see why or how else they'd have set that scene up the way that they did. They didn't know Nynaeve would be there, so it must be the case. It doesn't make sense for them to have just done that for fun. Her disguise, Nynaeve's disguise, was not well chosen, in my theory anyway, if Rendra is related to Leandrin, and Leandrin hears a description of her, Leandrin will then suspect that that's where they are, and then that's going to cause problems. And that's just if my theory about Rendra plays out. It may or may not. And I know they didn't have many choices, but they shouldn't have let the Sonshun man, the Seeker, I'm assuming, they shouldn't have let him go. That could be really problematic for them down the track, and it could be really problematic for Egan, particularly if he thinks that she has betrayed them. But it also could mean that there could be a rescue mission on the way. I'm thinking they won't take out Moghedien in this book, but she'll disappear, leaving some kind of chaos behind her. Although I do think Nynaeve could manage it if she really puts her mind to it. I do think she could take Moghedien out, but I don't think they will this book anyway. So chapter 53, The Price of a Departure. Perrin got married. that was just really, really sweet. Wildfale isn't my favourite. I like them together. I actually do think they work really well together when she's being nice to him. Although she's definitely going to try changing him into a lord. That's a given. Lord Luke is Slayer, but all putting everything together. I mean, it's implied, even if it's not actually said out loud. Although the question still stands as to who Slayer and Lord Luke actually really is. I'm glad he's out of their hair for now, hopefully for a while. I'd say that this is the last we've seen of him for a little while. But also that Perrin won't assume he's dead. That was a really big one, that he will not assume that Slayer was killed because he saw him escaping. But what's Slayer's game? Like, what is he doing? Why has he been in the village helping? Has he been trying to suss stuff out? What is his deal? Oh, so many questions there. And I'm sure I will find out at some point. I hope sometimes. I really worry that I've got all these questions and some of them will just never get answered, just because, you know, in long-running TV series or book series, threads get dropped along the way at times. I assume that Lord Luke Slayer is a big thread and it won't get dropped. But often I just sit there and go, I hope some of these threads don't get dropped in a way like that. But no, I think that Slayer is being set up a certain way. Who is the dead man? A farmer who is coming. Help, I hope, maybe from Tarryn Ferry, the people who survived. Not many in Eamon's Field know anyone from that town, so it's possible that the survivors are coming back to help, but that doesn't fit with what we know of the Tarryn Ferry people. But anyway, Chiad and Gaul may help repair some of the Isle blood feuds. That would be nice, maybe. Anyway, I hope they get a chance to make it work between the two of them. That would be lovely. I'm so happy that Loyal and Gaul did it. They closed the Waygate, or they blocked it. I would love to know that story of what they did, but I doubt we'll get much more than what we've already been told. It would do much. it would be a really great story to hear what happened, but I don't think much actually happened in the scheme of things. And it wouldn't do much to further the plot to tell it. So I understand why that story wasn't included, but I just wish that it had been. Faela's going to ride to Camelin. Will she suggest to Morghese that Perrin would make a fine Lord of the Two Rivers? I think that makes sense, that that's an ulterior motive that she might have. So I've got a small theory. Maybe Perrin is more closely linked to the King of Manetheren than Mat. I think it was set up early that Mat was the connection, or that's what we were assuming, but now I'm thinking maybe it's Perrin. It may have been a misdirect to make me think it was Mat, or maybe it's neither of them. Who knows? Birgitta might tell them at some point. Maybe she'll let that slip, or confirm something if they go with a direct question. Anyway, they both have the blood of Manetheren in their veins, and Perrin clearly has great skills leading people and a great love and care for the Two Rivers area. He's learning and growing a lot, harsher than before, but that was out of it was a necessity, and I do think he needed to grow a bit of a thicker skin. That's not quite the right way of describing it, but he is harsher. He needed to become a little bit harsher just to deal with everything. And yeah, I'm really, this Perrin storyline, Matt's storyline, actually all of the storylines in this book are just really intriguing me, so I'm looking forward to seeing more about that. And Perrin's wolf visions are really worrying. So he saw those little visions in the dream world. I hope they're not fixed completely, but I think that they seemed to be a little bit like Min's, and that's concerning. So I'll keep an eye on that and see what happens with Perrin's wolf visions there. Chapter 54, Into the Palace. There we have it. Nynaeve is as powerful as one of the Forsaken without much training or control. She can only grow more powerful once she unblocks herself and works out exactly what to do. So she's sort of she's handicapped in a strong way at the moment because of this blocking. She can't always access the source, which means that she can't practice, she can't get better, she can't learn new skills, or she can, but she can't sort of try them out until in the moment. And anyway, so the fact that she can stand up to one of the Forsaken, even if she Moghedien is one of the weaker Forsaken, if that's true, Nynaeve is incredibly powerful. So we've got that confirmation. Next time she comes up against Moghedien, she better be prepared to kill. That was probably her big mistake there, but she wouldn't be Nynaeve, and none of them would be of the Two Rivers if their first thought always was to kill. I think in some situations it is, but in that moment when they've got the power, the majority of them choose not to, as far as we've seen so far, I think. So that is sort of probably the big difference between them and a lot of other people who would just strike. She didn't even consider it this time, and that will show Moghedien, I wrote Mog, Moghedien all the weaknesses that she needs to see in Nynaeve, and that's something that she might be able to manipulate down the track. So that it's showing weakness, but it also could be showing a great strength. That will be interesting to see play out as well. Amathera sounds like she actually cares a little bit about the people, or at least not doing too much damage, so I'm hoping that that's the case for her. She may actually be a good Panarch if she's able to get control back and be a little less spoiled, maybe. At a guess, Elaine will also regret not stilling Temail, but it didn't even cross her mind at all. Maybe that was just a timing thing. Maybe she didn't know how to do it. But Gwen managed to do it, or block. Maybe it wasn't proper stilling. Probably not what she did. But yeah, I think that will also come back to bite Elaine as well, that she didn't do anything further with Tamail. Although, like, on top of that, it also could have been too much noticeable channeling, and that's really what they're trying to avoid doing. Tamail will come for her at some point, although we'll probably come up against each other at some point in the future, and she'll have to deal with her then. It's possible another member of the Black Aja has died, but it really is unclear if Jian is alive or dead. It's really unclear at this stage, and I think on purpose. She'll also have it in for Nynaeve if she survived. I wonder if she did survive, if she realised that that was Magedian. I doubt it, but they might put things together potentially. Or even if they don't know it's Magedian, they might work out that it's one of the Forsaken, but they might have no idea either. Interesting how Magedian told Nynaeve how the bracelets and colour work. I doubt any of our crew would even attempt using them based on this knowledge, which is probably a good thing. She might have done them a favour in the long run. It's possible though, well, not that Rand needs controlling like that right now. It's possible though, if they are used, Rand will be able to fight his way through it if he waits long enough. So if something happens, there is a way out and a way for him to fight back and stuff. So it's not as disastrous. I suppose it's still pretty bad. It would be really bad if someone used them against Rand, but it's not as disastrous as it could be, because he could get an upper hand potentially if he played his cards right. Egenin may be a really good friend to have if they can learn to trust her, if she is trustworthy. I think she's going to be trustworthy, and I think she's going to be someone who is important at some point, but I'm really looking forward to seeing that happen. I think she is trustworthy and that she'll have an important part to play, maybe as a guide for a visit to Sonshan land, potentially with the Sea Folk. And that sort of brings them all together a little bit, this what's been going on in Tenchiko. It's a possibility. It appears that Gabriel with Queen Morghese is probably Raven, who sounds like he'll be more trouble than some of the others just because of how he plays the game. And a few other, like, yeah, he just sounds dangerous. So I'm not looking forward to them coming up against him, but I am. Really, who am I kidding? I'm really looking forward to them coming up against him, but I'm worried about what will happen to bring that on. Chapter 55, Into the Deep. They made it out okay, and Nynaeve is willing to be friendly with Egenin, so that feels like a pretty big win. They've achieved a lot. They actually achieved what they set out to do. Get the bracelets. I hope she sticks with them for a while and doesn't disappear. Although going with Domin would suit her as well, but not if he's smuggling and dealing with the Sonshan, just in general. Even unwittingly working with the Sonshan by carrying the Seeker. Elaine has a beautiful sense of justice and really cares about people, not about ruling, which I adore about her. I think she's amazing. She'll do what has to be done, but in a way that serves others before herself, and not focusing on what will work for her. If Amathera can learn even a little bit of that, she'll do okay as Panarch, but Terrebonne needs something more than okay. So I'm hoping that maybe she can be more than what she's shown to be so far. I wonder where they'll go next. I actually have no inkling of where this group are going to head next. They need to leave quickly, as soon as possible, or Leandrin and co may catch up with them now that they know that they're in the city. Shame the Sea Folk aren't there still, as that would serve solve both problems. First, leaving Tenchiko, and second, they could see the collar into the deep. Not leave it with Domin, who will try to do it, but there's a possibility that he might not succeed. Through no fault of his own, he will do the best that he can, but I just have this feeling that this collar and bracelets are not going to end up in the deep ocean like what they want. Their plan worked surprisingly well. I was surprised that it worked so well and that no one ended up captured, or they didn't come across Leandrin or or anything. I hope that is the case and there isn't any nasty surprises to come while they're still in Tanchico. I can say it's been a really solid learning experience for both Nynaeve and Elaine, this whole experience. Tom and Julien were more useful than they'll probably admit, than the girls will probably admit. And Domin and Eganin were invaluable in their own way. So they had the perfect little team to get what needed to be done. It was a great team who can work well together. Maybe they'll have more chances in the future. I thought they were really great all together. They all offered something quite different and just really enjoyed the dynamics between them. Chapter 56, Golden Eyes. It is awesome that the two rivers united together to drive out both the Trollocs and eventually the White Cloaks. I had thought they'd end up with outside help for a little bit. I thought that they might end up with, I don't know, Queen Morghese might have sent people there, or someone may, and because it's been going on for a while, there was enough time for them to send help. But so that didn't happen. So I think it's a much more fitting way for the proud folk of the two rivers to stand together. And it's definitely that Manetheren sort of feel to it, almost where the when Manetheren fell, this is almost that the opposite of they've, I don't know, what am I trying to say? I didn't write this down. They're yeah, no, I'm not even gonna try. I think it was a really nice sort of bookend, full circle kind of thing that they've managed to stand up to the attack. So their casualties were less than what I expected, helped by the women standing side by side with the men, which, if that isn't a piece of foreshadowing for the Aes Sedai needing both Sadia and Satan, I think, well, in my opinion, that's sort of what it was implying. Also that whole, the Manetheren, the men stood and the women and the children left, some of them anyway. I'm sure some of the women fought as well in a different way. There was a whole lot of that going on. But the men and the women standing together side by side, it seems to be when that happens, they're more likely to succeed. So I hope that they take a lesson and do that more often. But also the help they weren't expecting arriving to tip the balance also links in with that as well. So that was much needed, the support of the other two rivers folk, not just the Emonsfielders, but the other places. I can't remember their names. The catapults also helped a lot. So the catapults were really, really useful very early in the fight, particularly slowing down the onslaught, giving them a chance to not lose immediately. Varen and Alana's presence was definitely needed here, if underplayed somewhat by both of them and even other people. I can't believe the White Cloaks just stood and watched. I mean, I can believe it, but still. They are meant to be against the dark, and the Trollocs and Fades are definitely of the dark. They know that that's the case, and they have no proof that Perrin is of the dark. I know what, like, I know there's the anger and all that. It baffles me, and this is in the real world as well. When there is proof that something is there, they will still turn and we're here for Perrin. We don't care about the Trollocs and the Fades. Yeah, we know they're evil. We're not going to deal with them though. Anyway, well done to the two rivers for sending them on their way so successfully. They stood together and they got rid of them, and that was, again, they did it, which was this whole, if this isn't setting up, at a guess, I wouldn't be surprised if this connects with what I've written here, but if this is setting up something bigger for this area that maybe separates them from, and is it Andor? Camelin, Queen Morghese is Queen of Andor, right? Anyway, Fael has plans for a resurgence of Manetheren, with Perrin and her as Lord and Lady by the look of things. Will it be called that or simply stay as the two rivers? I don't know. And how will Queen Morghese react when she hears? And she'll probably hear Ordith's version of events, not the actual reality of events. Looks like he'll be heading to Tarvalon to get that dagger after doing what he can to cause more trouble for Perrin with Queen Morghast. Ordeth dropped the name Isam, who was in charge of the Trollocs and all. I assume this is Slayer/Luke, but that still gives no real clue as to his identity. I don't recall an Isam, and it's not listed as a name of a Forsaken, so it's very, very interesting. If I'm correct, if Isam is who Slayer is. Very intriguing. Left with, actually I love how this book has sort of 3 separate endings. So the last ending is with Rand that I'm about to talk about, but we had the Tanchico ending, the Two Rivers ending, and then the Isle ending, and each of them has left so many questions and so much so many opportunities and different ways that it could go in the next book. So love that. Anyway, chapter 57, the breaking in the Threefold Land. I feel like I should have worked out Lanfear was there way earlier. This is just something I should have known, that Lanfear was there. Rand even said something about Lanfear on one side and Moraine on the other. He even basically said that she was there. I just didn't think he was meaning it literally. That's on me. I love that Rand was caught off guard by Couladin. It's important for things to be beyond what he's planned for. I think that's really important, that not everything can go according to his plan. So he can actually react to things in the moment and leave room for mistakes. I'm also hoping that by destruction of the Isle, or whatever the exact words used in their prophecy, that this destruction is connected to breaking their way of life by telling them the truth of the way of the leaf, and not a literal destruction. That would be nice if the destruction has kind of happened, and now, yeah, they'll have to deal with the ramifications of that, and it will be bad, but I'm hoping that that's the destruction they're talking about. So I guess Asmodean is the Gleeman. Natael and maybe Kadir had been willing to sell Rand information about him or how they got into the wasteland. That would make sense. Rand was definitely on guard with what he told them, but between him and Matt, they definitely said too much. They had both told Natael too much, and I think that that is probably going to come back to bite them a little bit, maybe. But better that that if a showdown must happen, it happens away from where it can hurt others. So I actually do like that they're having to go somewhere else where they're not going to get other people killed in the crossfire, and no one's going to leap in to try and help or save Rand and die needlessly. There are a lot of questions still to answer. I doubt I'll get many of them in the last chapter, but that's okay. This book has kept me guessing, and it continues to do so. And it's left me with a whole lot of questions to go for the last chapter and for chapters continuing on. And I wrote here at the end, also, is Adeline the maiden who I really like, is she dead? That makes me sad if she is. She was good for making fun of Rand and Avienda, and I'm just going to say no, she's not. I know she's not. But she did leap in and try and save Rand, but obviously not dead. Chapter 58, the final chapter, The Traps of Rudian. Rand has a teacher, finally. And so not who I thought it would be. I loved this outcome. I thought it was brilliant. Imagine being able to break the Forsaken's ties to the Dark One. This is like groundbreaking. This could be huge. I love it. If they find out, they will begin to fear him. And with Asmodean or Natael, with his help, he may actually be able to learn enough to stand a chance, and this is going to be fantastic. What an advantage. He has the terangrials, which do connect with the giant statues and a partner, and a partner statue. The statue we've seen in The Great Hunt and a partner statue. Obviously, nothing is featured so prominently in these books that isn't relevant, or somewhat relevant. So that is exciting as well, what that will mean. Rand actually scared Lanfear, which was awesome. She may have tried looking for the terangrial if she wasn't scared, if she wasn't just trying to get away from there. But he was able to manipulate her to a small extent. I just hope he holds on to some of who he is and doesn't become too manipulative and game playing and all that. I want him to hold on to who he is as well. And I thought she was Isendre right up until this, but this does make so much more sense, especially Natail and Keely being together and arguing so much. It was the two Forsaken. So it's still a possibility that the coin Matt tossed, he had that Tarvalon mark that he tossed, and Keely picked it up. Still possible that he bought Isendre with that, and that she is potentially the daughter of the Nine Moons. It's a possibility. I'm not sure whether this is the case or not, but it is a definite possibility that I'm watching for. And it looks like the Isle will be moving into Rudian. There'll be some resentment about that, but also water. Like, awesome. It's change, it's breaking the Isle, but hopefully that's what it means, but in a completely different way than what anyone assumed. And they've split in half. So the Isle who went with Couladin will be a problem at some point. I can already see that that could be a really big conflict, whether it's ongoing or whether it's a little underlying conflict that causes problems. I don't know if it's going to be a big one or a small one. I think I better get started on the next book pretty quickly. I did, to see what Robert Jordan answers in the first few chapters. Nothing is certain, and there's a whole lot up in the air, including what happens next. Oh, seriously, this has been so much fun reading this book and sharing it with you. It's just been so much fun reading it. I haven't had quite so much fun reading a book for a while, I suppose. I read a lot, and there are books that have made me think, there are books that I've really enjoyed, but I just had a lot of fun. And I think a lot of it has been to do with the fact that I've been sharing what I'm thinking with people and not just sort of having those moments and then moving on. So thank you for being a part of my journey so far. I have started reading The Fires of Heaven and I've read 2 chapters so far. I had hoped to have a little bit more time to read this weekend, and I have not. So that might mean that I may not get the first video out on Wednesday like I had initially planned. It just means that I'll push back a little bit, and that's okay. I want to make sure I do it properly and don't rush and ruin my experience of reading at the same time. So I loved The Shadow Rising. I have no idea what to expect from The Fires of Heaven, other than I feel that The Fires of Heaven tells me that things are gonna go up in flames, in metaphorically or real, I don't know. I'm looking forward to seeing more of their adventures separately, or hopefully that some of them will come back together, see how that plays out. Really interested to see the fallout of some of these things, like Rand and Rudian and the Isle and that, and what happens, how they get away from Tenchiko. Do they get away from Tenchiko, or are they still there? And what are the repercussions for the 2 rivers as well, because that is big as well. I'm also kind of hoping that in the next book maybe Lan might have a slightly bigger part, but maybe he won't. That's okay too. I think I didn't mention it maybe in the last video or in one of the earlier chapters. I just noticed that Lan has had nothing to do in this book. He was there and he was doing things, but nothing that nothing that was integral. I'm also really curious to see how Moraine and Rand's relationship plays out and what that means. And yeah, I'm just really, really curious to see where things go next. But I loved this. I loved that they technically have one of the Forsaken on their side. I love that Rand has the ability to disconnect the Forsaken from the Dark One. I love that Perrin and Vale are married. I love that Elaine and Nynaeve have been able to succeed at what they set out to do, and that Nynaeve has shown her power and how amazing she really is. I just really love so much of it. I love that we've seen a different side to the Sonshrin. I love that we've met the Sea Folk. What haven't I loved? I've loved a lot of this book. So what I'd really love to know from you are what were some of your highlights from The Shadow Rising? Your favourite characters, favourite moments, favourite revelations. If you've got a favourite quote, I don't know, just let me know what was your favourite things about The Shadow Rising, and I'll get down in the comments and join the discussion as well. And I will see you with more videos for the Fires of Heaven as soon as I can get some more of it read, and I'll look forward to chatting to you. So like the video, subscribe and share if anyone wants to get on board, and I will see you all soon. Bye.